time ago
now.
Yeah.
What,
Does that
like,
reveal our age if we say?
potentially over 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Because I graduated over 10 years ago now.
Oh, yeah. It was, quite a long time ago. I think I turned 21 while I was at that school.
Wowzers.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a long time, guys. It's a long time.
Oofed.
But you tell us, we went to where?
Yeah, we went to PPA,
PPA.
in Guildford. And I was on the 1-year acting course there.
And was that the first, like, drama stuff that you'd done, like, post-18, or?
Yeah, I did West End Kids for a bit, which I really loved, because I came to theatre quite late. So I was sort of on the fence between acting and musical theatre, probably similarly to you, that I knew I loved acting but could also sing and dance a little bit, so got pushed into musicals.
Yeah.
I did West End Kids when I was 18, left sixth form and did that for a couple of years while I was auditioning for drama school, got into PPA on their 1-year course, and very firmly decided acting, although they did try and keep me to do musical theatre.
Oh, did they?
The 3-year, but I was like, I couldn't see how I was going to work in musicals at that time.
Interesting. That's really, like, grown up though, like, and very, like...
Who'd have thought?
I'm surprised.
Yeah.
I'm joking. Because, like, we were just discussing before we started, like, we had no idea. Like, I know so much more about the industry now that I've had 10 years in it, that I look back at my, like, 18-year-old self hopping off to PPA, like, I'm going to be in a musical. Yeah. Like, do you know what I mean? It's madness. So the fact that you, like...
Yeah, I
kind
did
of
know.
knew that's...
Yeah.
Could have seen it.
I was working front of house in a West End theatre at the time, selling programmes on Shrek the Musical at Theatre Royal Drury Lane. And I think where a lot of people there were musical theatre graduates, and I saw the sorts of things they were auditioning for. I think I saw, like, my casting quite early on and thought, I could see people this was a little bit before the age of self-tapes as well. So people were, like, physically going to auditions and then coming to work in the evening. And I knew very quickly that auditioning for musicals was not something that I thought I was going to enjoy.
Got ya. It wasn't something I enjoyed either.
No. And now I sit on the panels, I make it my goal that people can enjoy them more than...
Yeah, no.
Right.
100%. Like,
They're very scary.
They're very scary. But then you've gone on and done 1,000,001 things. So what I want to know is, you write.
Yeah.
And what got you into that? Because I feel like that's something quite, like, how do people get, I don't know,
Yeah, I think it comes off the back of PPA doing the 1-year acting. I'd auditioned I had my heart set on Arts Ed, to do the 3-year acting course at Arts Ed. And I'd got recalled and didn't get in, and they offered me the foundation. And it was like part-time, and I was working as a chaperone and working front of house and doing this part-time course in London. And again, very quickly was like, a lot of my drama school auditions, and I'm hoping it's changed now, a lot of my drama school auditions were like, oh, is that your actual accent? Or is that your actual voice?
Really?
Yeah. Or I had people on straight acting panels asking why I wasn't auditioning for the musical theatre course. So there was a lot of, like, preconceptions. Again, I think because I'm from Essex, and I think there was a certain aesthetic that went with musical theatre students at the time as well, that people didn't know where to put me or what to do with me. And when I finished the year at PPA, and I think I did 6 months at Arts Ed maybe on the part-time course, I started just looking for my own auditions, and very quickly realised my casting was not where I wanted it to be, really, with an Essex accent. So I started writing for myself, writing specifically, like, articulate Essex girls.
Nice.
And the idea was to put myself in the roles. And then I did realise I didn't really enjoy being on stage as much as I thought I once did. And the older I got, the scarier it got. And I liked the building of the world, but I just didn't necessarily like myself as, like, the vessel to tell the story through.
Yeah. No, that makes so much sense. I think sometimes I see that a little bit teaching wise. I'm like, it's especially like you say, the older you get, it's harder to put yourself in that position. But so if you're writing then for yourself but not putting yourself in those roles, how do you cast them?
Oh yeah, and that's a whole new kettle of fish. I don't love casting as much as I love writing and directing.
Because some people, like, when they write, they want to be heavily involved in the casting process and stuff. So is that something that you're not?
No, not really. I feel like I have such a great, as I'm sure most directors and writers do, I have a great pool of like loads of spreadsheets of actors that I love and people whose skills and talents and experience, like I know would suit certain things really well. I actually think I'm better at casting other people's work than I am my own work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I can have people in mind. What was really weird is I made a show in a football stadium in 2020.
Yes.
And I wrote that and I sort of could see what the girls looked like in my head, as you do, but didn't necessarily have the actors in mind of who I wanted. But I knew I wanted it to authentically represent Dagenham, which is where it was set. And our casting director brought in some amazing like Essex, East London girls. And I've made so many great connections through like girls that had been in like UK tours or girls that had just graduated. There was a really good mix of actors that I think I wouldn't have known if I hadn't have had a decent casting director.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And also, so then have you used those people again?
Yeah.
That's how it works.
That's how it works. That's it. Yeah. Like research and development projects, or if I'm like, I've got one day in a studio and, you know, a couple of £100 for a day rate, like, can you come in and have a sing of this for me? But yeah, and then watching those girls go on and land huge jobs. You must get this as well with the school. Like when you see people who did your project for 3 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever it is, and then you go on and see them land the big stuff, it's like, we were just, you know, making this little show in a football stadium, and now, you know, one of the girls is a lead in Starlight Express, and one girl's covering Regina George in Mean Girls, and you know, you see people go on and smash it and take those first like steps, you know, to build up to the big break, which is that's really cool to see that they started in your writing. And they might not have, again, Essex East London girls, they might not have found casting that's so perfect for them otherwise, which has given them the experience to then go on and do the bigger and, you know, move on to the really big shows and lots of money and
lots of dollars.
Yes, and long contracts.
So the writing for you, that's something that you do all the time throughout. I mean, I know you're on tour with Dear Evan Hansen at the minute as resident.
As associate director.
Associate director.
Yeah, which is, I was resident director on the UK tour of Bugsy Malone.
Yeah.
And it did a run in London as well over Christmas. And that did have an associate director who I looked after the show like for. An amazing person called Franny Ann Rafferty, one of the best humans ever, creative humans, who's now a producer at Theatre Royal Plymouth.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, careers quite interchangeable, like creative careers. And then on Evan, they offered me associate director, so I had a bit more autonomy in the rehearsal room. I'm in charge of the alternate Evan, so I rehearsed him. And I do look after it on the road, so that it's quite crass to talk about money, but it's so that I can earn a wage. Yeah. So as an associate, you know, you'd get a fee to drop back in and check in on it. But as a resident with the show, you get that weekly wage. And again, as a freelancer, that is life-changing. Yeah. For me, massively. The stage I'm at in my career, it's worth being a resident to get the wage and stay with a show that I love and care about. And I get to note it every week. I get to, you know, the cast are not afraid to be like, is this still working? Is this still like, can we look at this scene again? And it's not like they don't see me for months on end and then I come back and bombard them with loads of notes. We spend most weeks together.
Constant creative process.
Yeah, and Evan is, because the script is so, like the book is so good for Dear Evan Hansen that there's always something to unpick or talk through, and new stuff comes out all the time that we have to be like, how does this fit with our original ideas and with, the original Broadway production, we're doing a non-replica. So Adam Pentford's the director, and he, with ATG's producing, who did it originally in the West End, but it's a new production. It's not the American production. So you take what they learned and you take what we found in the rehearsal room and you take it out on tour and see how it impacts audiences regionally.
Is that very different then?
I think so. I think I was interested to see how it would land regionally because it had such a big following in London, right? And I think a lot of schools seem to be doing it for GCSE.
It's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah.
To do at GCSE. I think that we had, no offence, we love you, Blood Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
But it was that for a long time.
Oh, my God. I did Blood Brothers. Yeah, 20 years ago.
So updating it a little bit. I think they tried Jamie at one point.
Oh, did they?
I think so. I think some of my kids did Jamie.
That's really good. It's about time, isn't it? And again, I think, the Dear Evan Hansen plot obviously is quite wacky. If you don't know it, do research it. Because it is wild, isn't it? Like it's a wild, it's the lie that gets out of control. And we spoke a lot about whether Evan is like bad. Like morally, how is this? So it's for us, for the creative team, it was, how he says no a lot, but yet the lie spirals out of control and it's what the other characters want from him. Yeah, so it's a strange one, I think. But in terms of mental health and suicide and, the themes are so strong that community and identity, it must be a cool thing to study at 15, 16, I should imagine.
Yeah.
I wish I'd have had not Blood Brothers and this.
Again, no offence, Blood Brothers.
No offence,
we love you.
We love Blood Brothers, but...
but, yes, no. It's a bit more relatable, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I do think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, on that theme then, of kind of like Dear Evan Hansen, we do a lot of mindset at Northern Prep Squad, and I just want to know, is there anything that you've like hit in your career that has maybe been a struggle or a little road like blip where you've had to like change your mindset at all to overcome it?
Yeah, there's maybe two moments actually. There was the moment auditioning for drama schools, and I can remember, again, we spoke a little bit about this before, that not having any idea of what schools were and what their purpose was and what training meant and what doors would open for you after training or not, or and I do think that from training we both agreed we took what we put in. Yes. You get out of it what you put in, which I think is my advice for whichever school you end up going to. I know people go, oh, this school's the best school, or this would, whatever. You have to go where you feel like you vibe and take what you can from it. But while I was auditioning, again, all of those, it took me a good few years to get into places that I actually wanted to go. And as I said, I touched on, I didn't get into Arts Ed, which was my top choice to do their 3-year acting BA. And I got recalled and didn't get in and was heartbroken. And I think that really did hit me hard because I saw everyone around me getting into schools first time and getting scholarships, and again was working with people that had graduated, and people would be like, oh, what school are you going to? And I was so embarrassed to talk about not getting in anywhere. But actually all of that rejection and all of that has taught me a lot of resilience. And I do think, again, now I've interviewed to be resident on Wicked and not got it, interviewed to be resident on Hamilton and not got it. And like, actually, even getting those interviews now, I'm like, if I could tell myself at 21, like that I was AV checked to do a Hamilton, I would like, what the hell? Like and again, just being in those rooms now does mean so much to me, that the rejections still hurt. I'm not saying I didn't not get out of bed for 3 weeks when I didn't get Hamilton. Literally cried forever. But then something else comes along. So like, I do really think if you believe you're meant to do it, it has to happen because laws of probability, like the more no's you get means a yes is coming.
Yeah.
And I really do, but I stand by that. So that's, all of those rejections from drama schools at the time stung. And I was so like, oh, I'm not talented. But actually that's a bit of a myth. Like talent is a complete myth. And I really think if you want to be doing it, why the hell shouldn't you be?
I think there's a lot of competition, isn't there, in this industry but actually, like, to me, I don't think there is, because there's a lot of, there's only this amount of jobs. Yeah, there's only this amount of jobs on the West End.
Yeah,
if you open up those doors, there's loads of other jobs happening.
Yeah.
Like with other different plays that are maybe like what yours was, just starting out and then leading on to bigger things. And I think, like you say, the doors, if they're opening and you can get in them, then even if you don't get them, you're meeting those people, aren't you? And
100%.
they open other doors, or you might be talking to someone and go, oh, actually, I've got this character, blah, blah, blah. And someone else goes, oh, I know someone who'd be perfect for that. And then it all like spirals. And I think sometimes we get into that competitive nature that it ends up being like everyone's against each other. But this world, like you say, is
it's so collaborative.
It's so collaborative.
Yeah.
Even midway through your show, you're still collaborating on like making it.
Oh, so true. Like all, and maybe not always, but sometimes our working notes are so collaborative that I'm like, hang on a second.
Hang on a minute. What's my job title again?
Yeah, which one am I? But that's so true. That Adam, who's directing this version of Evan Hansen, he was on a panel for a directing award that I didn't win, but was in the final 8 for. And when I didn't win, I was like, I'm rubbish. I'm terrible. Yeah, I have nothing left. And Adam remembered me. We did a feedback session. We had to do this like weird workshop in the final 8 where you get given a group of actors who you've never met and you have to pick a bit of the text that you've pitched, and you have to direct in a room with a panel watching you direct. It was horrible.
Oh my!
It was really scary.
God.
I would do it again now. I've done it once.
Yeah.
Like, now I'm like, oh, I know what that is, and I did it a bit wrong. It felt a bit performative and a bit. So I learned a lesson from that.
Yeah.
But Adam was on the panel, and afterwards he gave me some feedback, and he was like, "What do you think you need for your career?" And I was like, "I need to associate on more commercial shows." At the time I was on Bugsy Malone, and I was like, this is my first one, I want some more of this to learn scale. And he sent me for an AV check to be his associate on Christmas Carol at Alexandra Palace maybe in 2023, and I'd booked something else. So I replied being like, I've got something else during this time, so I'm not available, but really want to work with you. I've heard you've got Dear Evan Hansen, and that is my bag. And I got a lovely reply, I think, from his assistant that was literally like, it wasn't like, haha, like good hustle, but it felt like it was literally like, we haven't even started creative discussions for that, but thank you for your interest.
Yeah.
And then I emailed again in the new year when it was announced, and then I got an email for an AV check for that. So again, that's 2 emails and a whole process that I didn't win.
Yeah.
And the guy that did win that competition got to do a show at Nottingham Playhouse at his venue, and he got to do his show in that there. But I got this through that opportunity, even though I didn't win it.
Yeah.
So it does, it swings and roundabouts, isn't it, of what you get
and
when
it's persistence.
and why.
And also, I mean, I sometimes regret saying this to my kids because then they do it. But if you don't ask, you don't get.
Oh, so true.
If you don't ask, you don't get. And sometimes when they ask me and I go,
oh no,
I wish I
taught
you that.
Yeah. There's a little mini me.
Yeah. It's fair. You've got to.
Oh, it's so true. And I will always.
Put your hat in the ring.
Yeah. I will constantly harass people for coffees and jobs. And it does, I think, if you're right, and I don't do it relentlessly, like I'm not going to do it on shows that I don't think I'm right for either. Yeah. But think like drama schools that I know that I'd be great working at because I've seen the shows and they fit my vibe, or the students have similar personalities. Like I look where I fit and then hustle in those directions, so that it's not like aimless. That there's a method, there's a trajectory, and where I can give back as well, where I see people that were me 20 years ago.
There's something so nice about that though, isn't there?
Yeah, I do. I do love that part of the job. And then the other mindset thing of...
Well, I'm sure you won't mind me saying about you having ADHD.
Oh!
Has that affected you with regards to mindset and at all in this? Because before, I mean, we were just talking about this before, like being neurodiverse in this industry is a lot more celebrated now, and there's a lot more help available now than there was maybe when we were younger.
Yeah.
So is there any way that, like, how did you do life before there was any assistance really?
I didn't really, if I'm honest. I think that played a massive part on, again, auditioning for schools, and I think I probably would have come to being a theatre director quickly if I'd have had help sooner. ADHD affected so much growing up that I didn't realise. I was only diagnosed when I was 30. So it's still quite a fresh new thing that I'm learning to work with, and I've had to learn to manage quickly. But again, it's things like your timekeeping skills. It affects communication and like the ability to be concise and to be clear. But I do think that ADHD has played a part in my resilience and in my how quickly I can draft up a concept or can read a script and respond to it. Like, my ideas generation is pretty much non-stop, and have notepads full of ideas and post-it notes full of ideas, and I could draft up a pitch document for a new show. If you gave me 10 minutes now, I could probably come back and be like, here's a show for you, and you'd be like, thank you. I'd be like, here's your one-woman show.
I mean,
but that is something that my brain does really well, but doesn't always pick its moments.
Yeah.
So like, it'll be 3 a.m. and I'll have to get up for rehearsal at 7, and I'll still be thinking about this show that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've had access to work help, which has been so useful, which is a government scheme that essentially gives me money to have a virtual assistant. So it's somebody that combs my emails, talks to me via WhatsApp, and she makes sure I don't miss anything in my emails, make sure my calendar is well organised. I get little texts to be like, you've got this today. Like, just so, because again, especially as a freelancer and as a theatre director, you cannot just do, the between 1 and 3 shows a year. You have to teach, and you have to mentor, and you have to dramaturg, and you have to pick up all these other little things along the way, casting days and top up rehearsal days for shows that are long running or out on the road, or cover rehearsals is something I have to schedule, and again, all for different projects. So, and on top of that, you want to make sure you're also developing yourself as a director. So you're entering the competitions, and you're making the pitch documents, and you're reaching out to people for coffees. But then when they reply, I'm like, oh, that person's replied, I need to find them a date. My access to work assistant goes, you can have these days, instead of me going, what was I looking for on my phone? So that's been really helpful, actually. And that's all through the Access to Work website, which actually is, I think, if anybody is neurodivergent, that is well worth looking into, because that's been game changing for managing my career. Loads of masking as well. And now I'm so much better in an interview of being like, providing an access rider before an interview that says, I have ADHD. So if you ask me a question and I start going around the houses, feel free to bring me back to the question. Yeah. So I have lots of like tips for people interviewing me of like how to get the best out of me. That's
amazing. I don't think I've really heard of that, which is great.
It's because I did a few and was like, why am I not landing these jobs? And I was like, because I'm chatting a load of rubbish. Because I was so nervous. I was so nervous. And things like having a quiet space to prep, or like, knowing how many people are going to be in the waiting room with me, like things like that were actually really helpful. Getting material enough in advance if you need me to respond to a script or to a like pitch, a brief, getting that enough in advance and marking out the time I've got to prepare, and being really honest with the people interviewing me. Like, as a freelancer, if you've sent me this with 48 hours notice, I'm this time at Dear Evan Hansen, and I have 3 hours to prep this material. Is 3 hours prep going to be enough for what you need to hear from me?
Yeah.
And just being really honest about that part of the process, because we could spend our whole lives prepping for interviews for jobs that they're also interviewing, you know, between 3 and 20 other people for.
Yeah.
It's really quite disheartening do you know what I mean? You could,
if you don't feel like you're having the time to do your best as well.
Yeah, that's it. And knowing that somebody might be able to do 2 days worth of prep, but you haven't got that capacity.
Yeah.
But equally, as someone with ADHD, I could spend 2 days of hyperfixation prepping something that I'm never going to work on. So then there's no money in that.
Yeah.
And then what do I eat for that week? Yes.
The paper that you wrote on.
So true. Literally, I'll eat my laptop charger. Yeah.
Well, I've got a little prompt down here.
Cool.
Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Ta-da.
Oh,
Look at you.
look at me go.
Can you tell us about this photo?
Yes. This is at the Belgrade in Coventry.
Cough, cough.
Yeah, in Cov. And my wonderful friend now, but at the time was musical director of Bugsy Malone, Connor Tonkinson, took this of me. I was resident director on Bugsy Malone, and it was my first, like, I say it was my first, like, big job on a big show. And again, I was waiting for something like this to land, and it was Franny Ann Rafferty that put me forward to the director. And God, I'm so grateful, because it's changed the trajectory of my career. And I was so anxious because I shadowed Franny, and then Franny left, and I was left with the show, and would visit the show between 3 and 6 days a week. It could have been anywhere between 3 and 6 days. And the thing that used to terrify me was being given that mic and calling out the LX specials. And I had to ask all the actors to stand on their spot. And because I was like the new person in, they'd all been through rehearsals together, and Franny had been with them. When I took over, the imposter syndrome was loud.
Yeah.
And I think Belgrade was maybe 3 or 4 venues in, and it finally felt like something clicked of like, this is my job. I get to do this for a job. And look, the fact that I'm smiling and not like terrified.
Oh,
I'm really proud of myself. I keep that on my website. It was my WhatsApp picture for a while, because I thought I'm doing the thing that I remember meeting a director when I was working front of house and saying, look, I think I want to make the shift into directing. And he was like, well, I was a dancer. I trained at Arts Ed, and I was like, oh, this again. But he was like, I'm a dancer. I worked my way up to dance captain, and then resident choreographer, and then resident director, then associate director, and now I'm directing. And I remember being like, well, I'm never going to be in a chorus line and work my way up that way, or cats. So I'm never going to be doing that. So I thought, how am I going to do commercial musicals without being an ensemble performer that has the capacity for like swing and tracks? And but actually I had that capacity in my brain, just not in my body. So yeah, and it was Franny that gave me that opportunity. And I mean, I had a brilliant dance captain on Bugsy, who taught me everything I knew, to be fair. He was excellent. Will Lucas, he's epic. But
sometimes that's all you need, isn't it? Is someone to give you an opportunity, and then you're away. And
I loved it. Oh my God. And the Belgrade is such a great venue. And met Corey Campbell, who's the artistic director there, for a coffee while I was there doing Bugsy, because I was literally like, I want to direct on your main house. How can I do that? And he interviewed me the following year to be his associate. I didn't get it, which is fine.
Didn't get it yet. Not
yet.
This time.
But the fact that, you know, from that one coffee, then you apply for something and he remembers. And again, we've stayed in touch. You don't know what's to come in the future, right, either. So yeah, that's a good picture. And we filmed for Blue Peter that week as well. It was a really good week.
Hey.
Yeah. It was my first like as an associate or resident, you look after the promo events, which is one of the best bits of being a resident associate. It's my favourite bit, is you get to do the cool stuff. You get to do the big night of musicals.
Well, that's where I saw you a couple of weeks ago, wasn't
That was
it?
so fun. That was so fun. Those things are really, joyous. When you get to do those, you're like...
Because they're a bit out the norm as well, and it's a bit like everyone's excited. And
Yeah, and it gives the shows like reach. And again, I think I wouldn't be in musical theatre unless I'd have had access to it probably through Disney films or through, do you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't know what music, like, we weren't a family that were going to the theatre often. It's probably only through Disney movies that we got into, like, we didn't go to Panto or anything like that when we were kids. So anything that can make theatre a bit more accessible, like your Blue Peter episode with the kids from Bugsy, that was so much fun. But that's one of my highlights.
and you feel proud when you look at it.
Very proud.
I think pride is something we've talked about like quite a lot with Non-Prep Squad, and it's like it can be hard because you see those jobs that are like, I want to be on the West End, I want to be there. Like you say, all these interims and all these sideways movements going forward, sometimes you can lose yourself in actually being proud of yourself.
Yes.
Because you've not actually reached the goal yet. And I know that's something that I personally struggle with regards to like pride, because I see the goal's there and I'm nowhere near it yet. But actually all these things that you do achieve along the way that are paving the way towards the goal.
You can't do the goal without the groundwork either. Like, it would be terrible to get there and realise you shouldn't be there. It would be terrible. As much as I would have loved Dear Evan Hansen 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to do it. I wouldn't have had the skills that I've got from all of the random little jobs I've had as well, like really strange little quirky little jobs, again, that have been so much fun but people wouldn't have heard of. Oh my God, without them I wouldn't be able to do the
big stuff.
And
you wouldn't have met the people on the way to give you those opportunities anyway.
So true. And there's nothing worse than being stood, especially as a director, in front of a group of people and not know what you're talking about in that moment. There's nothing worse. So like, and it happens often. It's sometimes we turn up at venues and it's like, oh, in this scene the desk is cut, and you're like, we've not prepped for that. And you have to say to the actors, really honestly, we've just found out this is cut. Give me 10 minutes and I'll come back to you with a cut. So like, again, I think, but me 5 years ago would have just been like, I know what I'm doing. I'm fine. So, but again, it's from all the, the slightly smaller jobs or the slightly, less sort of named things that actually I've really paved a way, bit of grounding.
It's where you hone your craft.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And actually, like, as much as I say Evan was my dream job, I'm not sure if it was ever a dream show, maybe. But it was a dream job to be an associate on a UK tour of a musical that means something to young people. That was my, and I love the music. I think the book is great. So yeah, but also like now I'm there is always something else. Like I was watching the Oliviers last night and was like, well, this is a travesty. I'm not nominated for an Olivier this year.
Excuse me.
Do you know what I mean? But again, like there's always going to be something. And again, I remember speaking to Daniel Bailey at the Bush, who was associate artistic director at the Bush. He's just finished. But I interviewed to be resident there and didn't get it. And when we did our feedback interview, and I said like, oh, I want to do this, and he was literally like, but then it will just be the next thing. He was like, he was like, the jobs just get bigger. Like the rejections still stand. The jobs just get bigger and bigger. So yeah, I'm mentally prepping myself for that as well. That like, as I think my next move will either be a sit down tour that does, the long stints in venues. We're doing weekly touring at the moment, touring internationally or West End. So like, I know that one of those three probably will drop next. And then when I get there, then it will be about directing myself at Main House. So yeah, it's always going to be the next. I'd also like to be an assistant or an associate on a play. I've not done a lot of plays.
Yeah.
But like probably will have to drop back down from associate to assistant to do a play because I've done mostly musicals. So like, you know, it never is.
It's never
I want
that
to
way,
be in the
is
West
it?
End and that's it. Because even when you get there, it's how you get the next job and how you make the money. That's the biggest thing, isn't it? How you earn the salary.
We're not in it for that.
Yeah. Right.
If you are, there's the door.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so true.
it's yeah. But then, like, you're an adult that's trying to. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people that'll be watching this will be like young people and wanting to get into drama school, but like we're still going.
Oh God,
And
yeah.
it's like now I'm like,
God.
oh, do I have to pay for mortgage time? Interesting.
Yeah. I would love one of those.
Where's that? Yeah. Don't think I'm gonna get that.
Would
Self-employed.
love one of those. Yeah. Yeah. That's
But yeah,
it.
that's another thing. That's something that I think when you're younger, you don't even really like think about. Like, I mean, we have an agency and the kids get jobs, and I sometimes go, right, can I have your bank details to put this money in? And the parents go, oh, they get paid. And I'm like, yeah, of course they get paid. Did you read the contract?
They're doing a day's
But like,
work.
they're doing work. Like, I've licensed them.
Yeah.
So but obviously that's not the goal when you're young, and
No.
you don't have to pay for things.
Go.
Well, on that note, should we get some questions from some
Oh,
some children
some
that
young
might
people.
be auditioning for you one day? You never know.
Oh, brilliant. I'm ready for it.
Okay, so your first question is from Cole.
Hi, I'm Cole. My question is, how did you become a creative in the industry?
How did you become a creative? So Cole, bit of backstory. Cole also writes.
Oh,
And
great.
started directing. So I think that's kind of like, obviously his trajectory is drama school potentially, but then obviously if he
love.
wants to navigate, how do you go about that initially?
I do think my actor training did solidify being a creative.
Okay.
And lots of actors, to me as a director, do say, oh, you really do think about it like an actor. And I think, well, yeah, because I spent ages trying to do that. But I would say that I mostly like moved into the dark side by writing for scratch nights and entering loads of competitions.
Okay.
There wasn't like a direct route. I couldn't afford to do an MA in directing or creative writing. I sort of did it through Fringe Theatre, and again, it wasn't the best way of doing it. But I worked front of house at the theatre. I got promoted and ended up working in the retail officey bit. So I was on nice money in the theatre, was able to book lots of holiday and time off, and only used that holiday time not to go on holiday, but to do shows at Edinburgh Fringe, Camden Fringe. So my summers always involved trying to find free rehearsal space. I did like crowdfunding and sort of London previews and ticket prices and donations in order to take shows to, again, either Camden Fringe or Edinburgh Fringe, and did it that way. Once I felt like I'd been on the Fringe I maybe did it for like 6 or 7 years. It was quite a long time. I didn't know how to move. That was the hardest bit. I did a regional theatre young director scheme, which again, I interviewed for the first year with Queen's Theatre Hornchurch, and the scheme said you might be a little bit too close to London to benefit. And it was Sue Emmers at the Young Vic, this was in 2018, who said if you can find another regional venue that would apply on your behalf, you're the right candidate, but it's the wrong location because I'm just outside of London. So they were like, for a regional theatre young director scheme, it's a bit, there's people in regional venues that are going to benefit more. Which is when I met the Mercury Theatre Colchester, who said, we'd be so happy to do that with you. And I did a 3-month paid placement.
Oh, wow.
Again, I'm very much anti being a free assistant director. I think especially through those MA schemes, you're buying credits as far as I'm concerned. I have a lot of issues with how that works professionally. So yeah, I got paid 3 months to be at the Mercury Theatre Colchester. And Sue Emmers, again, who is artistic director for Regional Theatre Young Director Scheme, is also at the Young Vic. And I interviewed there for 2 things and got given a show at the Young Vic last year that opened this year. So like Sue has known me since 2018, again, having not got the thing that I interviewed for, and then eventually getting it, and then meeting her years later. And she's been a really good advocate for me. So again, I think it's finding your champions, exploring any competitions that are open that you've got material that you can sub for. I would say if while you're at uni or drama school or in a school capacity and you've got access to set, costumes, props, computer space, like anywhere that you can type anything up or rehearsal rooms, while you've got the resources, absolutely rinse it.
Yeah.
Film all of your like monologues, material, anything you're writing, get it filmed, get it recorded just on your iPhone with your friends while you're training. Then you've got stuff to send off. Because again, the hardest bit is doing it without any money, as I found out.
Yeah.
That
So
I didn't
Cole,
have the resources.
actually, is on the way.
Great.
He's
Yeah.
on the way,
If
so
he's doing
bits.
definitely
Well
do
done,
it
mate.
while you're training, Cole. That's great.
Yeah, well, and also if you are doing an acting course and you got loads of actors around you, aren't
So
you?
true. They want to be in stuff. They want to be in good stuff.
know what I mean?
Yeah, new stuff.
Shall I'm here if you ever need me, just saying.
Oh my God, I've got you.
If I need a northerner, I'm here. Right, we have another question, and this is from Evan.
Hi, I just wanted to ask, how do you regulate your emotions so easily? Because I find that difficult sometimes. So I'm just asking you to see if there's any good way.
And I think that's with regards to like mindset and stuff, as like that could be before I know. Evan's
That's very
11.
cute,
For auditions or like, I think it's sometimes hard with regards to like, especially hard hitting material as well. Like in Evan Hansen, how do you like go from committing to that show and then not taking it home?
Yeah.
That's quite difficult.
That's really hard. What a lovely question, because I'm still not sure I've mastered it as an adult.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah, I'm really not sure. Yeah, Evan is hard. And again, I have to watch my mouth with the actors, because I watch the show and I'm like, oh, I'm so drained. And they're like, we've just done the show.
Yeah, we've just done it twice today.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Sorry, guys. It's a really hard watch. And because I'm constantly going, oh, does this feel right? Does it fit? Am I connecting? Will the audience be connecting? So you're always like second guessing what. So I'm really processing it being sat in the audience, because you've got to test it.
Yeah.
So I did come out of having watched it exhausted. So yeah, you're not allowed to say that in front of the actors though, obviously.
Well, yeah.
Because they're amazing. Something we always say at Evan is finding time to laugh. And backstage side of stage, they have their little games and they're giggling, and they know when to switch it out. They know when, they need a moment to go off by themselves, and they know when they have a moment in the show where Richard Hurst, who plays Larry, tells them a joke.
Okay.
And they all congregate in one area backstage and Rich tells them a joke. And they either laugh or they go, ugh. Mostly they go, ugh.
He's running out now.
Yeah.
Googling
it's been
jokes
a
every
long
5
tour.
seconds.
Yeah. So again, I think it's finding moments to like put the joy back in it. The hardest bit that I find regulating is when I'm jumping between projects, because I am such a control freak that I don't like putting things down. So
Okay.
like I try and keep them all the plates spinning. So I guess for me, regulating it emotionally, I write everything down and have separate places for different projects, so that I have notepads with different things in, and have to be like, I'm spending an hour working on the cover rehearsals for Dear Evan Hansen, and I set a timer. I put brown noise on, so I get a background fuzz that helps me focus with ADHD. And then once that hour's up, I go and make myself a cup of tea, take my head out of it before I'm ready to move on to the next project. So yeah, I try and split it up with time. Sounds are really good for me, like brown noise, or like I'll put a podcast on to take me somewhere else.
Yeah.
Something to get my head out of where I'm at. But I also do have a therapist, and she's a specific like theatre therapist,
Yeah.
so she trains as an actor and she understands what the industry does
you're
on a
coming
creative
from.
brain. And she has a lot of specialism in neurodivergence, so she's brilliant with my ADHD. So I pay for a therapist once a month. That also does help. And lots of journaling. The Artist Way I use, if anyone knows what that is, it's amazing.
Oh, no.
It's a book. I think she's called Julia Cameron is the name that's in my head. But I feel like it's like 16 weeks. It's quite long. And I did it during lockdown. But some of the exercises I repeat, like morning pages, where you write 3 pages of whatever's in your head. And then you shut the notepad and then you go about your day. And it's just literally like free writing.
Oh, wow.
The first things that come into your head. But they do things like the artist dates. This is something I do a lot, is like take myself to the theatre or take myself out for dinner. And it's really weird because I was like, doing stuff on my own.
Yeah.
You know, what does
But
that
I think your life
look like?
becomes, well, our hobbies have become our jobs, haven't they?
Yes.
So
Oh my
it's
God, yeah.
like now suddenly I don't have a hobby.
No.
And it's like, well, everyone else goes and does this for their brain and this. And I'm like stuck to my laptop doing my hobby as my work constantly. So I think that idea of making time for yourself is so important, doing something else that you can take your brain out and you can enjoy it, and it's not for the gain of your career.
Yeah.
Like you could
And
be
it-
terrible at
that's it.
squash and just go and play it.
Yeah,
Do you know
that's
what I mean?
it. Dedicating a little bit of time to something, you don't need to be good at. That's hard in this industry as well.
Hard, because we've been drilled from a young age.
Yes, that you have to be the best. But that's again, talent is a myth. I will say that so loud.
Hear that first.
Yeah.
Loud and proud.
Just
right.
work hard, yeah.
I've got another question for you. This is Lizzie.
Hi, so my questions are, how does being neurodiverse affect your approach to writing and directing? And what do you think the industry could do to better improve representation for neurodiverse individuals? Thanks.
Oh, they're great
Great
questions.
question.
Love those so much. So many thoughts on this that aren't finished.
Yep.
Because I'm neurodivergent.
There we go.
I've actually just put an Arts Council bid in to make a musical called Hyper, which is written by myself and my composer MEP, who is also neurodivergent Essex girl.
Amazing.
And we want to interrogate practice with an entire neurodivergent team and what that might look like.
Amazing.
Yeah. So as you can imagine, the access costs are through the roof for the funding bid.
Yeah.
But it would include like accessible, like breakout spaces and access workers, somebody who double checks all of the admin every single day, and a therapist on site. So we are really going big with like what we can explore. And on Dear Evan Hansen, quite a few of the company are neurodivergent. There's quite a proportion of us that are. And again, the industry doesn't really have any inclusive practices in place for neurodivergence. And I think I found a stat, and I'm going to butcher it, so I'm really sorry, but it's something like only 30% of diversity and inclusion policies actually include neurodivergencies or like clauses for neurodivergence.
Okay.
So like there's a lack of like intel on what it actually means to work with neurodivergence.
Right.
But, so people don't know how to deal with it. So I think we are having to advocate for ourselves a lot more. Again, me as a director, I have my access to work support. I have lovely Caris who checks my emails and my diary for me, and we communicate all by WhatsApp. So she is a real person. I want to clarify that. She's not like a chat GPT. She's like she's an
there.
actual human. Yes.
She's typing.
She's pregnant. So she's 2 humans at the moment.
Oh, she's doing
But she's brilliant, and thank God for her. So she helps me divide up my time and make sure I tick all the boxes. I think the biggest thing for me is making sure I don't get too excited by one project that I neglect the other projects.
Right.
So again, a tight calendar and clear notes in correct places where I can access things easily. And what I would love to see more of in the industry is open talk about neurodivergence and people not being ashamed to say that they are, in case they won't get the job or they're seen as too much trouble, or, you know, and I think at Evan, we have got quite a healthy way of talking about it and like making light of it between us. So yeah, between us, we do joke quite a lot about our ADHD, and if we're doing a get-in day during sound check, so the stage man, even now I'm like, oh God, the stage manager will be talking to us, but they'll be playing Sincerely Me and they'll have the drum turned right up and we'll be going, and you just know,
right now.
you just know, you look round and we always laugh and we're like, spot the ones with ADHD, because all of our faces are like, I can't do the two noises at the same time. I need to know what you're saying, but I can only hear the drum. But you'd literally see all of us, our faces just go, what are we supposed to be listening to? So yeah, I think there's something in the openness of that I do think we've got right at Evan, is being able to just chat through and be like, ADHD's really come to play today. Is there any way we can make it clearer for each other? And it is communication, you know, it is for me, it's definitely about how we communicate.
And there's still a lack of understanding with regards to that, which then makes it feel like, oh, I'm going to be too much trouble, or
oh God, and all presents differently.
When do we, like I have that with some of the kids' parents are worried about like mentioning it to casting directors. At what point do we mention it? I'm like, well, no, we mention it at the point that we need. You need either more time or whatever, but it does come into consideration in a negative, will this negatively impact my child? And I think that is still really prevalent.
Yeah, agree.
So I agree with you on that. It would be
so
nice
hard, isn't it? Yeah, and I think it is. I think it's making access riders more known and like more acceptable. And I think people act like casting directors and producers, general managers, company managers, actively getting in touch and being like, if anyone has any access needs, please send me your access riders, so that it's like you don't have to be like, oh sorry, by the way, please could I send you my, it's people saying at point of hiring, like, if you have any access needs, please send us over your access riders. I think that's the most helpful way to start the conversation, at least. And then obviously bigger shows having support in place, whether it's Kenny Wax actually had this brilliant scheme on Bugsy where we had an employee assistance program, so we had access to therapy if we needed it as part of being employed by Kenny Wax. And I do think, it's those sorts of things that do make the difference, because even if you don't use it, to know it's there and to know that you can signpost other people to it, especially in a role of resident or associate director where it does sort of, you know, you can drift into those pastoral roles. It's helpful to have places to signpost people. And mental health first aiders on site is so useful.
Yeah.
Because it does the knock-on effect, right?
A lot to say on that. Yeah. But it's something that definitely is, some people are making the efforts, and ultimately they're the ones that everyone's going to go there to them, aren't they? So I think it's super important.
And neurodivergent creatives have so many good ideas, so many like
just need help putting them into fruition sometimes, guys.
That's it.
I've got loads up here.
Yeah, that's it. And you'll gain so much from a neurodivergent company member if they've got the right support in place. Yeah,
agreed.
It's worth it.
Last one from Penelope, who is 8.
Out of acting, writing and directing, which one is your favourite and why?
So cute. Easy one, directing. I love it. I like being in charge. There's no way of saying that than like, I just love deciding what the story is and what it looks like and what people do to tell the story. That's the best. It's my favourite in the whole world.
Bish, bash, bosh, Penelope.
Easy.
You queen with your little crown on your head. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Shell, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
No, I've loved it.
Me
I've
too.
just been sat staring at you. I felt myself at one point like, it was great. I loved it.
Yeah, really,
and I feel like
fun.
I've learned loads about an area in this industry that I love directing a show reel every now and then, but it's so interesting to see how you've gone into that and and what it can bring you as well. Like, it's not all about just getting the acting jobs, guys.
Oh,
Industry's
God.
got a lot going on.
Yeah, directing is very similar to acting. It's the same, again, to get the big stuff, you've got to do the groundwork. Yeah.
Work hard.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us today. And if you're interested in joining the squad, either as an associate, a management client, or just joining one of our summer opportunities, head to our website, www.northernprepsquad.co.uk, or check us out on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. All the links can be found in our show notes. Thanks for listening.